Everybody, Jamie Pate here. Welcome to this video. This is a new series here on the channel called Workspace Wednesday, and today is part 2 of a Q&A that we aired about a week ago or so. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Let's just get started with today's. Okay, just like part 1 of our Q&A, which you all absolutely love. Thank you so much for your comments and words of encouragement, and you were all about having a part 2. So I have a couple more questions to share in today's, and then we're going to kind of pick up in a little bit different direction after today's video. So one of the questions that I had today came from Wendy, and she asked, what do you do with scrap bits of paper? I hate cutting a big sheet for a small die cut or a sentiment strip. So I hold on to these scraps just in case. Now, I do believe this is a very common habit that a lot of us exercise. We hold on to the scraps. I used to think I should be called the frugal scrapper way back in the day when, we were one income and a bunch of kids and we were homeschooling and just all the things. And there just wasn't a lot of money for making kind of at the level that maybe I make today. I'm just in a different chapter of my life now. But that being said, a person still hangs on to their scraps. Case in point. So I have a couple answers for Wendy's question. The first answer is my basket. This is just, you can even see I have a merchandise tag in here too, because I just love the size of it. I do that. But if I even have swatches in here because I haven't put them on a ring yet. So it's just a great safe place, right? So as I make stuff, this was just already a background, and then I stamped it, and I believe I even photographed it, and I put a rub-on on it. But I know it's going to be used somewhere. So these kinds of bits of paper do indeed find themselves just stuck in my basket. This sits on a shelf just to the left of my workspace. And so as I'm working, if I know I have little bits, it will just end up in here. Sometimes they're backgrounds. Sometimes they're specialty paper. Sometimes they're full-on tags that have already been die cut. Sometimes they're already stamped, and I'm not, that was a good circle tag. Like, I'm not going to get rid of that. But then it's like a little treasure trove. This was some stamping that I was just playing around with watercolors. Whoops, I just broke my clip. Okay, we'll fix that later. So you get the idea, right? I just have a basket that I will very often peruse if I know, okay, I just want to have a little stamped journal strip, or I just need a small heart punched or a circle punch. I have a little bag here that's holding these metallic papers, and there's some more backgrounds. I might have backgrounds stuck in here too. And so that is one way I keep my scrap bits of paper. Another way that I keep my scrap bits of paper, and this is actually an answer to another question that we have today, is with these little stack and store trays. These are new and exclusive from ScrapbookCom. Now see this paper here? It's kind of big. I'm just going to go pop it into my basket right now because it's a little bigger than what I really want it to be. These are more like things that I've already cut that more than likely I'm going to use again, especially these fall colors going on here. Or I just love them so much, I just want to be able to go through them and look at them again. I don't know what I'm doing with these yet. This was a fun watercolor, real abstract kind of exercise that I was doing. Here's some more background paper. One of the things I want to make sure that I do share with you all is I don't know that there's like any one way to do anything. And so just because I have a basket over here that holds scrap pieces of paper doesn't mean like, well, maybe in my little stack and stow trays that I won't have scrap bits of paper too. It's just, somebody said something along the lines that we shop and we organize our stuff. And that's just the thing, right? I don't necessarily want to have the mindset of like, okay, where exactly am I going to put this piece of paper? Forgive the airplane. We live by a small airport and he is like dusting my roof, I think. That was a little low. Anyway, so I just don't want to give the impression that I have I have a lot of places for a lot of things, but when it comes to like scrappy things like this, there might be more than one place that they're found. Kind of on that same subject, I like to store the ones that will fit dies in, these are about 4 3/4 by 4 3/4 square small storage envelopes. And I use these mostly for my dies, like I just said, that will fit. But if I have die cuts that I've done and I'm like, okay, I didn't use that for whatever reason, like, or I'm maybe pulling leaves off of it or whatever, and I'm not quite ready to get rid of it, more than likely, but then again, right, like not always, I will also store my bits and pieces in these almost 5" by 5" storage envelopes. So that is my answer for Wendy. Okay, our next question comes from Robin. Yes, Robin's on the show again. She'll like that there. Her question is, are the white mesh bags lined with plastic, or are they just the mesh material? I don't want the die cuts to catch on the mesh if they are not lined. So as we talk about these, she's talking about these small crafty pouches and the large crafty pouch. Newish item that's also available exclusively only at ScrapbookCom, and I will be referring to these again in a moment. But I'm a real big fan of these pouches, and this also would be a great answer to Wendy's question about how to hold the small bits if you don't maybe have a whole basket like I do. I mean, that mine could be excessive. I have no idea. That being said, the answer to this is, while these are a mesh, they're also made of EVA, which is a fancy term for vinyl acetate. So you have this mesh look, but all those holes are filled in. So it's like a really cool looking bag. Super flexible. This is the small one, and it measures at 9.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. And I have some tags in here that I've just thrown in here. Another way I've been using the small pouch is with the 49 & Market Art Options Spice. I've just tucked the 6x6 in here. I have my cards that I made that are in here. Plus, speaking of bits, I have a little clip of bits and parts in here because I'm not done with this. It's fall for me. I'm going to be making with this. I'm not ready to just go put it all away with all my paper again. And then this is the large one. There's also a lot of 49 & Market in here and some Tim Holtz and I don't know what else, some fancy pants. And this is, again, part of my 90-day journal. So this is just all in here. Fits in here beautifully. I can zip it up. I can take it with me. Holds so much, with this being 13 inches wide by 9.5 inches tall. These are great storage solutions. For so many things. I mean, I'm thinking I could travel with these too, with just, whatever I'm going to pack. I think these would be great for that as well. Alrighty, another question Robin asked is, where did you find the pegboard and hanging baskets? Did you mount it directly to the wall? Let me show you what she is speaking of. This is a pegboard that I have on my wall. It's just to the right of my workspace. It's from IKEA, and I believe it would be part of their storage items. And I do have some pegs on it that came with it. I have on my pegboard, which is attached to the wall. There is an apparatus in which you can hang it to the wall. But I have Tim Holtz stencils here. I have dies, just some basic dies that I reach for often. I have my specialty scissors here. I have some scissors that I saved just for styling. And then my larger brayer is hanging up here. This little, it's kind of, I think if this was used for office, this would be a paper holder. I have extra storage envelopes that are sitting in here, as well as more of the crafty pouches we were just talking about. And that way I just know where they are if I need to grab them. Then you can also purchase along with that these little containers. I have clips in there, wood clips, and book rings. Our next question comes from Janice, and the question is, how do you keep track of all the cardstock? How do you know what colors you have or how to match patterns with colors? And that's a great question. I am a big collector of the 6x8 paper pads from ScrapbookCom, and then with those also includes A2 pads. So what I finally decided to do was to create a swatch book, which just makes me so happy to look at. I just don't even, isn't that a little silly? No, it's not silly. This is paper and patterns. So I took a 1.5 inch circle punch is what I want to say. And I just went through, it took me a little while to do this, and as I would get new ones, I would add it to it. But it's kind of a fun thing if you can do any kind of crafting in front of a screen. I cannot. I have to focus, but I can listen to jazz or I can listen to a podcast, and this is something I can do. Here is Sunny Lane. This is all the patterns from Sunny Lane. And then I purposely did the roses, the warms, and the florals on this side because it was really interesting to me to see what works back into here. But something else I can do is then I can grab one of my new pattern papers or another pattern paper, and I can come along here and I can see what works with that. This would be that darker kind of a mahogany color. It would work with that. This is a good pink with that. So is this, right? And, you know, would you put any of those with it? Maybe. The green would work. And so it's a great way to be able to, it's just swatching out. I mean, I'm sure you guys have swatched out ink. This is just swatching out paper. Here's Berry Sweet with the yellows and the pinks and the sunshine. And then we have Peppermint and Jules Playful. Isn't it just so pretty to look at? It's like a catalog of color. Vacation, Cozy Pattern, Harvest, and Harvest Pattern. What else do I have? A couple more pages. This is all the boho pattern. The boho has a solid. The boho also has a pattern. And then neutrals, the mixed metals, and then the holographic. That's kind of a fun page too. And then here, this was a little bit of a mishmash because this is almost all the Christmas papers, almost all. So there's the Merry pattern, but then here's the Noel pattern. I couldn't fit it all on one page, so I just trimmed that page down so I could still see it all. Obviously, I need to fill this in maybe with something else. Then there's the Christmas, and then there's the Christmas pattern. I think that, nope, I keep saying that. Then I have Spooky pattern and the magical pattern. And I just really love having this book, and I do refer to it often. I think it's a super easy way to keep track of what you have. You could put your patterns in here as well. I could see doing 49 and Market all over, although 49 Market is a little more difficult because there's so much pattern on a page, right? So as I say that, I'm thinking, well, no, I might not actually do that. But if I grab a Vicky Bouton or a Heidi Swapp or something like that, that it might be something, if it has a more repetitive pattern on it, that I could catalog in here and then have that for all of time. All right, my next question comes from Karen. She asks, could you tell me what the clear holders are that you keep your Distress Oxide pads in? And she's referring to when I shared my studio tour, and I just kind of glossed over these. I have two of these. They're actually a multi-level nail polish organizer. And there are obviously 4 levels to this. And they each hold 4 ink pads across, 4 all the way back. So this easily, obviously, holds 16. Yeah, I was just counting to make sure. So I have my other one that I have holds like my yellows and my pinks and my reds. And I actually don't have enough of these, but I don't have any more room to store these. And so that being said, I shared, I believe in that video as well, that this doesn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This only holds 15. But I will keep these and the pads that I use most often right here on my workspace. And these are kind of backup. So my seasonal colors are going to be found mostly here on my desk, or the things that I'm reaching for all the time, which goes ahead and brings another question to mind that I'm going to go ahead and jump into right now. And that's from Pam. And she's asking, do you think it matters for longevity of the ink in the pad if you store sideways, right side up, etc.? I can't bring myself to store ink pads any way but upside down. And And I feel your pain, Pam, because I was taught to store my ink pads like this. And I finally got asked by a friend one day, why do you store your ink pads upside down? And I'm also that the ink stays at the top of the surface. But then when I was listening to, it was probably a demo that Tim Holtz was doing, and I mostly have distress oxides until I don't, until something changes. Right now, I am a collector of the distress oxide. But what he taught is that the ink is actually suspended in the ink pad. And so it did, and he was talking specifically about storing these in these cases. So it's not a matter of, well, all the ink's going to go to the bottom. I've not found that to be the case at all. And you see how I store them, unless they're sitting like that on my desk, which then, of course, then the ink's going to go to the bottom. But it doesn't. The ink is suspended throughout the whole pad. Bottom line is, I've never experienced any difficulty with storing them the way that I do. Great question, though, because I had to educate myself as to the reality of the situation. Alrighty, I have another question here from Karen, in which she asks, where do you get those little small white bowls that keep die cuts and acetate leaves in? She's referring to these bowls, which you can hear, they're actual bowls, and they stack super cool. And I am so sorry to say, they are no longer available. This was a find at Target months ago, and I grabbed a whole bunch of them because they were clearing them out. And I'm so sorry, because honestly, these are really fun. I will say that they're a little cumbersome. I love them, but I do find myself like, oh, where's that color I'm looking for, right? And the thing that I'm slowly replacing this with, because I can't get any more of these mainly, but because I do like how much more room these have, are back to the stack and store. I told you I'd be referring to these again, but this is kind of replacing this. So that's my answer. These are no longer available. I'm starting to utilize these. I actually have more on order because I can see me stacking these, and they just sit that high versus that, that's one of those. Anyway, that's my answer, Karen. Thank you for the question. So sorry for the answer. Okay, my next question is from Katie. She asked, what do you use a squirt bottle of alcohol for? Cleaning, ink effects? And the answer to that is yes and yes. Actually, I do use it for cleaning, and I do use it for ink effects. So actually, this is a workspace mat from ScrapbookCom that I use very often because it's a great space. I love the black. I love the grid. I love that it's a self-healing mat. I love how big it is. It's 23 by 16 inches. It covers a great space on my workspace. I can set it on top of a silicone mat and then just move it if I need to do ink effects. But my point is, I try not to, but very often I'll get like the roller adhesive on here, and it just kind of clumps up, and I'll spray alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol is what's in here, and I keep it in a very different container than my water, which I keep in a distress sprayer, because and my kids know, like my son knows, okay, that's alcohol, I don't need to be messing with it. So, but it's also because archival inks are not water-based, like the distress oxide or the distress. You can use alcohol to move them. I'm not going to do a demo today, but that is something you can look up that Tim Holtz does, and so much better than I do, because I don't do a lot of archival, but it is a lot of fun, the fact that alcohol can affect and move these archival inks. That is what the isopropyl alcohol sprayer is for. Okay, friends, that wraps up Q&A part 2. I hope that was helpful to you. I hope you found some value in this video, and if you did, I'd love a thumbs up on this as well. We will definitely do another Q&A with questions for organization or things in the studio or how things are happening. I'd love continue to bring them to me. I love hearing your questions. All the supplies that I showed you that are available for purchase, they will be linked in the description box, and I will see you in the next video.